Going Beyond is a presentation of Beyond Housing, helping entire communities become better places to live with RareGem Productions.
We're going beyond.
Today on Going Beyond.
On today's show, we're going to talk about an exciting recent development where we're having some North County communities work together, partner together to make great things happen.
As you know, Chris, when we took over Wellston, before at the high school, they used to have, anytime they had a graduation, they had a lot of fights, shootings, car break-ins. The last recent graduation that they had on a couple of Fridays ago, there was no fighting, no shooting, no arguments, no car break-ins. That's because of the relationship that the policemen have built with that community just within a couple of weeks. Also, we went by there on Monday, the middle school had a graduation. And it was cars parked all up and down North Market. And there was no car break-in, no shooting, no fighting. Everybody got along. And that's because we respect one another. That's just like the future of our cities now depends on how we work together and come together and build our community and make stronger community and run efficient and effective government. And I think that's what we're doing now, is making our government more efficient and effective.
Joining me on today's show is the mayor of Vinita Park, Mayor James McGhee. Beyond Housing is going beyond.
That and more ahead today on Going Beyond with Chris Krameyer, right after this. One thing could throw you completely off balance.
So I grew up in the state of Missouri foster care system. I entered the system when I was 8 and I aged out at 21.
But it doesn't have to take you down.
And you've got to find a way to, have a vision. You can have barriers, you can have mountains, you can have challenges, but you can mount those walls.
You can work it out. Take 5. Be alive and well. Find out what you can do. Take 5 and go to aliveandwellstl.com. RareGem Productions proudly presenting the positive.
We're going beyond. Welcome to this edition of Going Beyond. I'm your host, Chris Krameyer, President and CEO of Beyond Housing. On today's show, we're going to talk about an exciting recent development where we're having some North County communities work together, partner together to make great things happen. Joining me on today's show is the mayor of Vinita Park, Mayor James McGhee. Welcome to the show, Mayor.
Thank you, Chris, and thank you for having me on your show. There's exciting things going on in the 24-1 and also in the North County Police Co-op, as you know. We all get together and work together. And thanks to you and Beyond Housing for the resource that you all give us to make us where we are today.
So let's give a quick background for our listeners, and then I'll have you kind of give the details. Within the last couple of weeks, the city of Wellston made a very difficult, but the most would agree, an important decision to disband their own police department, and they have signed a contract with what's newly called the North County Cooperative that is spearheaded by the Vinita Park Police Department and the city of Vinita Park. So there's been a lot of conversations about municipalities. There's been a lot of conversations about, what should or shouldn't happen. But one of the things that everyone agrees on, if there's places for collaboration, if there's places for working together, municipalities should do that. And this is a great evidence of that. So talk a little bit about, kind of the thinking behind creating the cooperative, and then what you and Mayor Griffin, the mayor of Wellston, your peer, hope to have happen not only with this particular venture, but where it could grow and what else could happen.
Well, Chris, as you know, I've been on both sides of the fence. I was the chief of police, been in the police department, and also now in the political figure. So we bring a tremendous amount of experience to the table. We got to looking at what was going on in the area and what Jefferson City want us to do. With that, we had to look at how can we get under one umbrella. And when we got to looking at that, we saw where we could really help out in the area because, as you know, we all work together within 24-1, and we're going to save a tremendous amount of money. So when we looked at bringing this together, we looked at what makes strong neighborhoods. And we looked at 3 policies. One was to look at, first of all, how can we get our young peoples together? And we looked at the Boys and Girls Club. And then secondly, we looked at how can the community realize that they need the police and the police need them, and how the police work and the things that they go through. So we created a citizen police academy. And then we looked at, the young people, middle age, may not have anything to do. So we came up with the Youth Basketball League coached by the police. And that way the police officers get to know the youth and the youth get to know the police. And with that in mind, that's why we came about when we got our heads together and talked to Wellston, and Wellston talked to us, and we could show them where they could save a tremendous amount of money and get good services. And also it's a win-win situation. And if you know, from a business standpoint, that would make sense, because if you have a business and you paying like $1.5 million for a product, and you can get that same product and better product for $610,000, from a business point, that just makes sense.
If I'm making that decision, that's an easy decision to make. So I've heard Mayor Griffin from Wellston speak several times, and each time he expresses the importance of community policing. And you alluded to, some of the strategies a moment ago, because clearly, look, everything we've seen historically and clearly from the tragic death of Michael Brown and a whole lot of other things subsequent to that the relationship between the police and the community, clearly has not been as strong as it needs to be. So talk a little bit about, the thinking from the North County Cooperative around this notion of community policing and what you hope to accomplish.
With that, Chris, we looked at several areas in that. Community policing is very important. As you know, we have a track record with community policing in our community. Our policemen, they get out and talk to our residents. They get to know them. They get to know their children. They get to know what kind of cars in their driveway. And when you have that type of relationship, that community policing is very important. And that's one of the things I was liking in Wellston, I think. And when we talked to Mayor Griffin, he looked at our track record and he said he wanted that. So that's why we went there in that area. And when we got in Wellston and got to knocking on the doors and introducing themselves, they said, well, what did we do wrong? It's not that they didn't do anything wrong. We just knocked on the door and let them know. We just want to get to know you and you get to know us. So that's the important piece that I think is lacking in a lot of communities, is that community policing. And that's been years in the coming and years in the making. But we've been doing that collaboration, as you know, since 2010, even when we was invited to the White House.
So again, this notion of, communities working together, of looking at how do you provide services for your residents, and whether it be public safety, whether it be housing inspections, whether it be any other municipal function. In the 24-1 initiative, which is in the boundaries of the Normandy School District, the Mayor McGhee and all of his peers have been working together to find lots of different ways to be effective, to be efficient, including creating what's now the 12 best practices. Mayor, talk a little bit about, the thinking behind, again, how do all communities provide the best services for their residents, including policing?
As you know, we always look at building stronger communities, engaging families, and success for children. So when we looked at that piece, our 12 best practices, a lot of things that was going on in Jefferson City, and they was putting legislators together in Jeff City. We traveled to Jeff City several times and looked at what they was really looking at, and they really hadn't talked to the people with the boots on the ground. So what we decided to do within 24-1 is leave our egos at the door, power struggles at the door, and we came together and said, if one city fail, we all fail. So with that in mind, we had to come up with some practices and looked at some state statutes and laws pertaining to those cities, and that's how we came up with the 10 best practices. And then we went 2 steps further. Now we got the 12 best practices.
So again, the exciting thing that continues to occur, and sometimes quietly, because as far as I could tell, our local media is not interested in a whole lot of good news these days. And I think everyone's kind of already decided that every small municipality should just go away without thinking about how exactly does that happen, and do the people who live in these communities really want that to happen. What your leadership and your peers in 24-1 have been able to do is say, here are ways that we can work together. So, a community like Wellston, who has struggled mightily with a whole host of things, here's an opportunity to, 1, get better policing, and 2, save significant resources. I think that's what everybody has said they wanted to see happen, but nobody that I heard applauded this change. There was a whole lot of naysayers, a whole lot of, oh, well, that's just not good enough. And I know how you think, and you don't really care what anybody else says. But talk a little bit about, again, how you as the mayor of one of the 24 cities and a leader in North County view kind of the future of not only your municipality, but others around you.
As you know, Chris, when we took over Wellston, before at the high school, they used to have, anytime they had a graduation, they had a lot of fights, shootings, car break-ins. The last recent graduation that they had on a couple of Fridays ago, there was no fighting, no shooting, no arguments, no car break-ins. That's because of the relationship that the policemen have built with that community just within a couple of weeks. Also, we went by there on Monday, the middle school had a graduation, and it was cars parked all up and down North Market, and there was no car break-in, no shooting, no fighting. Everybody got along, and that's because we respect one another. That's just like the future of our cities now depends on how we work together and come together and build our community and make stronger community and run efficient and effective government. And I think that's what we're doing now, is making our government more efficient and effective. We have an acronym we call RAP. That's responsibility, accountability, and productivity. And we also have a motto. We make the best decision for our city, for our residents, our business, and our employees. With that, we have no personal agenda, and our cities can then look for a better future.
So we have the North County Cooperative, which is really focusing on policing, not only in the 2401 footprint, but if there's others, in the North County region. I know you are already engaging in a lot of conversations about, where is there further growth. But there's also some interesting beginning conversations, no commitments, no anything else, but some conversations about courts. Can you talk a little bit about kind of what the leadership of 2401 is doing relative to the exploration of courts?
Well, thank you all, Chris. You all provide the resources that we need. And also, when we come together, you all had a resource to call us and get us together on those resources. But with the courts, they're saying that we should be under one umbrella, but there's a lot of working mechanisms that have to take place. Just like when you do a police co-op, when you're working together with that, a lot of contracts goes in, a lot of second thoughts, and a lot of moving parts. So when you look at combining those courts, it's a lot of movement in that, but we're working on that and trying to figure out how can we come together under one umbrella with the courts.
So again, for our listeners, and sometimes if you only get your information from the local media, and that quite frankly is all media, what you'll find is you're not getting quite the whole story. You're getting a little bit of the spin. So what you just heard Mayor McGhee describe is that not only are communities working together on a collaboration in policing, now we're talking about collaboration in courts. We've already done collaboration on trash collection, on purchasing, on a whole variety of different kind of things. So this belief that all small municipalities are ineffective and inefficient is quite frankly wrong and inaccurate. So, Mayor, as we come to a close, leave our listeners with your sense of what does the future look like? What do you envision happening in the 24-1 initiative and outside of it as municipalities continue to work together?
Well, Chris, I done had several calls even outside of the 24-1 footprint, and they want to know how we are doing it and being successful. One thing that I tell them what we had to do is leave our egos at the door, our pride at the door, and look at what's best for our city. And since we've been doing that, our city has been more effective and running more efficient. We're getting things done that we never thought we would get done before. We're saving money in every aspect. If you look at the trash collection, we save money there. I saved over, just Vinita Park alone, saved over $300,000 just in that area. And with the contracts that are going out with home demolition, we pooling our resources. I believe what God said. Together we stand, divided we fall. And we have to stand together and work together. And I don't care if you're blue, black, white, or green. If you can do the job, give that person that opportunity. And that's what we have to look at. And we have to be transparent. We got to stop sweeping stuff under the rug. We just have to be transparent. We're not perfect, but we're working to get there, to make our residents better, to make our city better, to make our employees better with the training and stuff that is going on. And we have a lot of training. We believe in cross training, because if one person is absent from our city, we have someone to step up and take that line. Our city keep rolling.
Mayor James McGhee, mayor of the city of Vinita Park, leader of the 24-1 initiative, inspiration behind the North County Cooperative. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you, Chris, for having me.
We're going beyond.
Going Beyond is a presentation of Beyond Housing, helping entire communities become better places to live with RareGem Productions. Proudly promoting, presenting, and producing positive programs.
Neighborhood is where you live, and we want to keep it strong and vibrant. This is Chris Krameyer with Beyond Housing. We are going beyond.
Chris Krameyer, President and CEO of Beyond Housing. Located at 4156 Manchester. Phone number 314-533-0600. The only organization in the St. Louis region that offers access to affordable housing. Wherever we work, our goal is to help transform people, families, and communities so that they achieve the skills, strategies, resources, and commitment to succeed for the long term. See our work at beyondhousing.org. Podcast for Going Beyond can be heard, downloaded, and shared by visiting hallelujah1600.com. Listed under the music tab, on demand. Going Beyond is another positive production of RareGem Productions.